Hey y'all, happy Saturday. Welcome to another What Else is Going On, aka We Go Podcast YouTube video. I'm your girl, your host, Taria. Thank y'all for being here with me today. Now, I'm just making a quick stop before I get back out on that road and make the money, honey. I had fun at the hubby's 30th reunion. It's interesting seeing people 30 years later, right? When you still feel like you're forever young, because I know some of his friends or what have you. And just seeing people, some people look the same, and then, baby, time waits for no man or skincare. But anyway, got to do that skincare routine. People do that skincare. But anyway, all in all, no, all jokes aside, the people looked healthy. I'll say that much. And it was just a really good time. And we didn't get home till about one something this morning. But anyway, there is something that we are gathered here today to talk about. So I want to, before we get into what we're going to talk about, we are going to work backwards through time and come to present day, okay? Because a lot of y'all have probably seen an announcement was made. Monique Samuels from the Real Housewives, formerly of the Real Housewives of Potomac, is now set to return to the Real Housewives of Potomac. And listen, I'm gonna put this out there. One thing, I need people to stop act just because someone talks about the person that you like on the show, they're not always hating. Now let's be clear. Sometimes people are hating. I am not hating on anyone. And I think sometimes people interchange the word hate with sometimes people just don't like a person. I never forget, and I've said it before, I heard somebody say, everybody's not hating on you. Sometimes people just don't like you. Hating is different than somebody not just liking you. Like words mean things and they have meanings, and those mean different things, in my opinion, and per Webster's. But also, if someone's talking about your fave, it doesn't mean they're being unbiased. And if they are being biased, if I'm being biased, I'm going to walk it through my mind with y'all and tell y'all, maybe I'm being biased because X, Y, and Z. That's what discussion and conversation is about. And I've said before, the art of having conversation and respectful disagreement is lost. I remember when I was talking about the Money Long situation, how she talked about it's black women tearing her down, yada, 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 did that video. And people are like, well, it is black women tearing black women down. Yeah, just like it's white women tearing white women down and Latina women tearing Latina women down. You're going to have that in every community, right? And I spoke about that, and people were like, oh, the fact that this is even a conversation is diabolical. Do people know what diabolical means? I know it's become a pop culture word, but I think we need to start really using words in the context with which they were meant to be used, if we can, and not just using it because you don't really understand what the word means and you're also not really listening to the discussion being had. I have noticed that you could say one thing and a person interprets or takes what you say and add to it. And it's like, that's not what I said. So like with the Money Long situation, people had all this to say and now it's still a conversation because people are still talking about it because more has come out. But I was like, I'm gonna leave that alone because child, it's diabolical. That's what the people say. But anyway, so I say all that to say Monique has never been one of my favorite housewives. There was only one point in time when I'll say I saw it for her, right? Because I feel like sometimes you can say I dislike this housewife, even though we don't necessarily know them, if we've seen them or met them or seen them in other shows outside of the housewives thing, and we get to see more of their personality. I feel like we can then kind of make an assessment, right? But I've never really seen it for her from her first season. It had nothing to do with her and the altercation she had with Candace. Because when Candace first came on, I didn't care for Candace, and it wasn't until one day I asked myself, "Why don't you care for her?" And I said, "Oh, because she's responding to the ones on the show that you do like, and the ones on the show that you do like are really picking with her, so she has a right to respond." And then it was in that moment I was like, "I actually like her." Just because she was going up against who I thought were my faves at the time, she was valid in her points. And that's what kind of made me start like switching. Like when you view these housewives, like, oh man, that's my fave, but they were wrong. Or that's who I like more, but they were wrong. So with Monique and Candace, their altercation didn't make me not see it for Monique. I have been not seeing it for Monique. Actually, the only time I did see it for Monique was when her and Candace were together and on Ashley's neck. I was like, yes. When their friendship, I felt like if they had remained a power couple, they could have really shook some things up together, right? So there's that. And then after the fallout, after the drama and with all the IG lives, I paid attention to both lives and what people were saying, not what I perceived them saying, but what they actually said out of their mouth. And then just different shenanigans throughout the years. With Monique, to me, I felt like she'd be putting on a little bit. Yeah. But anyway, so let's get into, we're going to go backwards and then go forward, right? We're going to look at a couple videos. First thing I want to get into is, let me make sure I have them in order to pull them up because we need to talk about this again as a family. And again, we all have our different ones. Oh yeah, like in quotes, dislike, we all have those that we say, but I want to get into something. So we know Monique had left the Real Housewives of Potomac. She said it was toxic, all these different things. And she went over to Love and Marriage DC. So the first clip I'm going to show you, she was on In the Know on Yahoo. Shout out to Gibson Johns. Gibson was interviewing her, and she talks about what it was like filming. Remember this. She's talking about what it was like to film, meaning this had already been filmed. It had already was airing. And these were her feelings about it. Again, remember, it was already airing. Now she had just signed the contract and was getting ready to go into it. It had already been airing. And this is what she said.
And you said in the premiere of this of Love and Marriage DC, I want to get the quotes right. You just said that you were always present on reality TV, but you weren't always able to be seen, and that you also felt that you were put in a box.
Yes.
I was wondering if you could just, again, because it's a show, so we only have so much context we can get there. So I'm wondering if you could just elaborate a little bit on why you felt that during your times on Real Housewives, and sort of what more you get to show here that changes that.
Yeah. So I felt like when I was a part of Real Housewives, it was like they only put you into a box of who they wanted your quote unquote character to be. So even though I'm a great businesswoman and I'm very hands-on, I'm a person who I don't just sit around and get pampered and I don't get taken care of. Like I'm not a kept wife, but they wanted me to be. So they would only show the viewers the things that would make it look like the narrative that they wanted to push. Like, oh, she's married to an NFL player and they,
So you hear that? She's saying with the Housewives, they would only show the viewers what fit with the narrative they wanted to push. That's what they did on Housewives. On Housewives, they would only show what narrative they wanted to push when it came to the housewife. And I agree with her with that. I think they do that.
They live like this. So,
and I'm sorry if the sound is kind of low. I turned it up to the highest,
This is how much money she spent. This is, it's like that's what their focus was. They didn't show me, being hands-on as a mom, hands-on in my business. Even in my relationship with my husband, there was a lot that was missing. So with this show, I felt like I was free to really be me, and editing always is what it is. We only have so many episodes, so we can't fit in everything, but seeing me as me just genuinely be Moni in the middle, trying to find peace, but also trying to get down to the bottom of some things. And maybe it comes off as a little messy. Maybe it is messy, but I'm a person, I'm a human. And as you watch each episode and how it transpires, you'll see that my heart of hearts really is for us to be happy and to have a good time.
Yeah.
And for us to promote and uplift each other and be happy for each other, and for us to be a shoulder to cry on whenever we're going through things, whether it's individually as us personally, or in our marriages or in our family. And that is what my biggest goal has always been. So you get to see more of that. You don't see just one side to me and Chris's marriage, which looks all glittery and perfect. You get to see the other side of how we get to that sort of perfection that will never be perfection.
And it doesn't come easy though. It doesn't come easy. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And when you
So there she is talking about she likes what Love and Marriage DC is showing about her and Chris, right? So fast forward, she's left Potomac, she's on Love and Marriage DC, and she said, look, Potomac did me wrong. They only showed what went along with the narrative they wanted to push about me. With Love and Marriage DC, you get to see the real. Again, this is already filmed. Fast forward, we hear that she's no longer on Love and Marriage DC. I remember there was a lot of discussion about it. Remember, she was on season 1, not on season 2. And it had came out that it was money. It wasn't, and Monique ended up saying this herself, but basically they wanted me to give them X, Y, and Z, like of her life, but they didn't want to give me more money. Because I remember when some of the cast had came out and said, we were all at the table, we were all signing our contracts. And then next thing you know, we don't see Monique and Chris. So then they find out later on that she left. But Monique says she left at that time because of the money. But now but that was later on. Let's get into what she said just in November.
I was stressed the fuck out. Love and Marriage DC, let me tell you, that was my greatest nightmare, but my greatest teacher, because it basically, it put me out there without any context. Like on this show, when I tell you I was ranting and raving.
Now you see how she says it puts her out there without any context. Now before, after she filmed season 1 and did that interview you just saw, she said that we got to see everything. We got to see all sides of her. Now, this past November, I noticed she started doing a press run. And I was like, I said, I wonder if people notice that she's doing a press run. So I'm not surprised that she's coming back. But let's get into what she says.
Even I was at my wit's end with the marriage. And I was like doing all that I could. I'm like trying to get this dude to see time is of the essence. Like, I really need you to step up. I need you to wake up.
Please.
Yes. But imagine you being on camera and having a conversation, and now something said in the conversation that pops you off. They ain't showing nothing about that. They just showing you pop off. So when I tell,
which I find interesting, because again, she said in the other video, when Love and Marriage DC was first airing, that it showed everything. It showed all sides. But now we're finding out, or this is what kind of puts me in that gray area with her, because she says different things. And it's like, well, that's not what was said before. Now, granted, I do know maybe in that moment with Love and Marriage DC, she was doing a press run and saying you get to see all sides of me. But then I also wonder if what she's saying now is because of the backlash, because there were people that were big fans of her on Real Housewives of Potomac. And then when she got to Love and Marriage DC and the season played out, then they were like, oh my gosh, it was a totally different story for some people. So I wonder, part of me wonders if this is why she's saying this now. Like, I was just thrown out there. So she's saying the same thing about Love and Marriage DC that she said about Potomac.
Tell you, it was like every single scene I was yelling and I was going off. And when I tell you, the whole synopsis of the show was get to know the real full me, get to know the real me. And they got me like, only have me yelling and going crazy.
The angry black
right?
woman.
Yo, it was.
But again, I'm sorry to stop y'all, because, we have to stop and start. So that way YouTube doesn't flag it. Again, she said during the first season that they did show her. Now she's saying they didn't.
Terrible. And it was crazy because I came from a show where I was a fan favorite, and then now I'm supposed to have my own show, and I am like the most hated. And it was tough. I was like, damn, they are on me hard. And I had to get to the point where I said, you know what? I feel like this is the part of the story where my ego starts to die. I had to kill my ego. I had to care even less about what people thought about me, because only I knew what was really going on, behind the scenes. And it was a huge test of just like, all right, let's see how much you've grown.
How did that show come about?
So when I left Housewives, there was one of the producers that used to be a part of Housewives franchise who started.
And we know she's talking about Carlos King.
His own. He approached me with support and came at me with some like, we black, and these white shows, they don't show black people in the light that they should be shown in, and it can be natural drama, it doesn't have to be this scripted drama, and it created a relationship of like, all right, let's see what we can do together, let's work together. So I believed him when he used the black card, and he did me worse than the white folks. I was like, he could have waited to the second season to trash me.
So you think Love and Marriage DC did you worse than Real Housewives of Potomac?
Yeah.
Damn.
It was worse. It was like there was no context. There was no reason to all of the fussing and fighting. It was like, it's love and marriage. So show the full outlook of what a love and marriage, like show what all of it looks like, right? I have always been very open on camera. Like I like to be as transparent as possible. But if my spouse is not also that way, then if you're not saying anything, they're only going to be showing what I'm saying. So it's very unbalanced.
Now you notice what she said? She said, I'm always open. If your spouse is not saying anything, they're only going to show what I'm saying. But you just said that he would say stuff and you would react, and they wouldn't show what he said. They show what who react. And see, this is what I'm saying. So I'm like, well, which one is it? Because clearly he has to be saying something for you to react. You see what I'm saying? So again, initially she said they were showing me doing all this yelling without context. He would say something. They wouldn't show that. They would only show my reaction. But then she just said, I'm open. But when your spouse isn't, they're only showing me. We're only showing you doing what? Reacting, meaning he is open and saying stuff. But so which one is it? That's where it's the little things like that. Because if you're not paying attention, you'd be like, oh, yeah. But then, okay, so she said they're only showing her reactions to him. He's saying something. They're only showing her reactions. Oh, but wait. She just said he's not open and saying anything. They're only showing my actions. And like I said, that's where I'm like, okay, she can kind of get people if you're not paying attention. But she ain't the only housewife to do it, ain't the only person to do it. I'm sure we know people in real life that do that. And you're like, hold up. I got to rewind that conversation. But we talked about this months ago when it came out that she said Carlos did her worse than the white folks. Monique has been in comments saying, I'm not coming back. Remember after Candace announced that she was leaving Housewives, I wanted to show y'all this. Candace leaves Housewives. I thought I had this pulled up. Sorry, y'all. So I'm probably not going to show it. Do y'all remember seeing Monique had posted a picture of herself and she was like, don't even ask. Hold on a second. Because I had it on my phone and then I thought I had it, but hold on. Now, I won't be surprised if she gets in these comments and then says it's not true. Because remember with the whole Traders thing, where it was coming out that she was going to be on Traders, she said out of her mouth, I don't know where y'all are getting this information from. And then I forget what blog had put out that Traders didn't want her because Candace had dropped out. Then she came back out and said, that's not true. We were in negotiations. So it was really interesting. It was like, so at first when it came out that you were rumored to be joining, you said, I don't know where y'all get this from. As soon as they said Traders didn't want you because Candace had dropped out, then you came out and said, nope, not true. I actually was in negotiations. So again, that's what I mean. It's like, so you said that you weren't in, I don't know where you're getting that from. So, that's what I mean. It's like, sometimes you don't know with her. This is the picture that I was talking about, y'all. So when Candace announced she was leaving, nobody had said anything yet. But when it was announced, she posted this picture, March 25th of 2024. Nope, don't ask. Click the link in the bio, beautiful people, and catch me on the radio every morning. Right? This is what she posted. March 25th, 2024, because she was working at the radio station. Now, the interview that we just saw was in November of 2024. In that interview, she talked about Chris doesn't pay child support. Chris doesn't pay alimony. Chris gave her a lump sum, and she used it. She used most of it, she said, to put a down payment to buy her house for her and the kids, which I think was great. But the fact, and I guess I'm not judging anybody. I do feel like every woman should have the person on child support. I mean, unless you can truly say you trust. I mean, I don't know, because people change when you're going through a divorce, right? Things can get ugly when you're going through a breakup. But she says she knows that Chris will always take care of his kids. So she, in that interview that we just watched, she said she doesn't get child support. She doesn't get alimony. Chris just did a lump sum. And then she's no longer working at the radio. She said it was because she wanted to focus on her family. Right? So now she's divorced from Chris. She's not doing Love and Marriage DC. She's no longer on the radio. She's just doing her essential oils. And like I said, I noticed that she was on this press run. So what we just saw was the J Hill podcast. Next up, let's look at this clip from the Reality Rundown in December of 2024. So remember, November of 2024, it's like around that time she starts this press run. She does that. Before that, she did Dear Future Wifey podcast. Then she did the J Hill podcast. Then Reality Rundown posted this clip of her that I want us to take a look at. December of 2024. So let's get into it.
Including myself. And listen, I was ready to unleash and unload, and they didn't show half of what was done. To this day, I still recall certain things that happened that weren't shown. Like there was this one point where after the binder, the biggest memory that I have and the thing that I hate that they didn't show, with Giselle, she was so upset and she was so quiet after lunch, like had nothing to say. When Chris came out and pretty much read her, she lost it and she just blurted out, "F you!" She like lost it, and they never showed it, but she lost it. And I was like, that pretty much summed up, why I left, because they were constantly protecting the people who should have been exposed and show who they really are on and off camera. And they kept these protections for people to the extent of not even protecting, my innocent children and those whole narratives that they were trying to point out. And it just got me to a point where I was just like, you know what? I don't have to deal with this. This is too much. And I decided to walk away.
Why do you think that pick and choose protection, if that's what it was there in the first place?
Well, if you're a puppet master, you're going to keep your puppets. So the ones that you can control, the ones that you can get to do what you want them to do, you're going to keep those people. But the ones who speak up like me and say, no, that's not me. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that. We're the ones that get the hardest time because we're not doing what they want us to do. We're not creating the show that they want. We're still trying to maintain a sense of who we are. In there for everybody, including myself. And listen.
We've heard that Dr. Wendy said that Giselle had a meltdown as well, and that they edited out. Because if you pay attention, before they go to commercial, Giselle is sitting there. When they come back, and I remember saying, wow, Giselle handled that good. She was cool as a cucumber, didn't flinch, but her eyes looked very red. And they said she was crying and everything else going off, but they edited it out, which isn't a surprise to me because BravoCon 2020, I went to the one in 2023. So 2022, when they taped the Watch What Happens Live, Andy Cohen made a joke about the set and like, oh, this is better than Giselle's wardrobe or something like that. A clip of it was posted by someone who was there. When it aired, that clip was cut out. And Andy said he had a housewife call him very upset because of a joke that he made about her clothes. So they literally cut that out for her. So I'm like, Bravo, what happened to the days when you said you wouldn't cut stuff out for people? If they said it, they said it. But anyway, so I just find it interesting that this is in 2024 that she's still saying they protect the puppets. I speak out. I'm not going to do whatever it is they want me to do. And then for us to turn around today from People Magazine, exclusive, Monique Samuels returning to the Real Housewives of Potomac for season 10. She's excited to show who she is now. A source tells People. Now, this was written by Dave Quinn. We know when Dave Quinn writes stuff because he wrote the book about Bravo, Not All Diamonds and Rosé with Bravo. So, he kind of works with them. So we know when Dave writes something for people, it is just like when Dave reported that Monique and Chris were separated. Somebody had to give him that information only for them, her and Chris, to turn around and do a video and say they're not separated. Chris flashing his ring. She said they're only living in separate houses, not separated. And then we find out they had actually started the process for divorce. So that's what I'm saying. But this says Monique Samuels is ready for her Bravo second act. The former Real Housewives of Potomac star, who famously exited the hit reality series in 2020, is officially returning for season 10. People can exclusively reveal. Production for the show is currently underway in Maryland, with last season stars Giselle Bryant, Ashley Darby, Dr. Wendy Asefo, Kiarna Stewart, and Stacey Rush, all filming again. Samuels will be joining the cast in a friend capacity. I knew it. I'm reading this with y'all for the first time. I saw the headlines. People were sending it to me. I didn't go read it until I was here with y'all. I wanted to read it with y'all. And I figured that was how they were going to introduce her as a friend of. Her comeback to the series that first made her a fan favorite and later sparked one of the most talked about departures in Housewives history comes at a pivotal time in Samuel's life. The 41-year-old Mila Eve Essentials owner finalized her divorce from former NFL offensive tackle Chris Samuels in September 2023. She and Chris were married for 11 years and are parents to daughters Milani 9, sons Christopher 12, and Chase 6. Monique's in a totally different place now, and fans will see that. She's excited to show who she is now, not as a wife, not as just a mom, but as a woman starting over and taking on life in her own terms. Look, I'm all for it. Even though I don't see it for her, I still want women to win. And I mean that. I just want her to be honest, because I find that she has a strange relationship with the truth, and that she has a narrative that she wants to cultivate about herself, which to some degree we all do, right? Whether it be little or extreme or, what have you. Her being in a friend capacity may be the perfect place for her to start. I'm gonna tell you this. I felt like season 5, she wanted to be a green-eyed bandit. I'll never forget that episode when they had that little dinner for Ashley or whatever. And she told Candace she was mad at her, basically made it seem like she was upset because Candace invited Charisse to her anniversary dinner. And Candace was like, you should have called me. And then the screen went black, but they were still mic'd. And Monique said, I had to, I'll call you later. But people glossed right over that. And then for her to have lunch with Giselle, to me, that said a lot. I know this is your job and you got to do what you got to do, but for her to have lunch with the woman you found out was plotting on you. And again, if you was that mad at everybody else, you would have read everybody else in that binder. You specifically read Giselle because you said you had a tab for everybody, including yourself. So it'll be interesting to see what her dynamic with Giselle will be. Now, Giselle recently said she would rather film with she doesn't like Monique, and she would rather, we know that she doesn't like Monique because last year they were all at a red carpet event when Monique was, it was either 2024 or 2023, the end of, they were at a red carpet event. I can't remember for what. And Monique was there with her radio people, her job. And Giselle lied and said, well, not lied, but Giselle said they wouldn't even let Monique on the red carpet and all this other stuff. And then there's literal footage of Monique on the red carpet. And she came out and spoke and was like, basically, here she is lying again. That's not the case. Like, why would she say that? Only for now, Giselle recently to say she would rather film with Monique than Candace, which is rich because, but anyway. So it'll be interesting to see where their relationship goes and who they try to blame the rift of their relationship on, when we know that Monique came, a season before Candace, and Giselle didn't see it for her then, off rip. So it'll be interesting to see how it's integrated. At first, I thought maybe she could come back by way of, what's her name? Jossie, because of the whole Redskins connection. But Chris had been stopped playing. I don't think her man played for the Redskins at this. Oh no, her man never played for the Redskins, right, Jossie? Either way, it'll probably be Ashley, right? Who y'all think will bring her in? Ashley? Now, if they had Giselle do it and say they met up off camera and had a conversation, that would be something. I could see them trying to say, look, for the betterment of the show, blah, blah. I mean, Monique was willing to sit down with her at a lunch and be Moni in the middle with her. And that what Giselle said, I'm sitting down with Moni in the middle. Because they have plotted to take out Candace. Because remember, not to go back, but Monique said she needs to be on ice. So if it was that Ashley Sip and See, she needs to be on ice. So if we kind of all do it, but then after the fight happened, if they flipped on her. So it would be interesting to see now who's going to bring her in. Is it going to be Ashley, or are they going to flip and bring in Giselle? And I have Giselle do it, and I do think they're doing it because Karen. They can talk about Karen, but Karen can't really be a story because Karen's not there. So I feel like they feel like they need something, right, for the season. So I would not be shocked if some crazy way they had Giselle bring in Monique. But what do y'all think? Do y'all want to see her back? If you do want to see her back, would you rather her be full-time, or will you take her as a friend of? Some of you don't feel no ways about it. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Potomac, we know that Stacey got married, not Stacey, Jasty got married, and some of the ladies were there. I said, we know she invited the ladies so that way they could make sure it gets on film, which it's also kind of, are they making that a cash trip? Because if Jasty is not full-time, why would they even bother? But I guess it's something for them to do. And who knows, maybe she'll end up getting bumped up. I don't know. But y'all let me know what y'all think about the Monique return of it all. Or do you think Monique is going to come out and be in them comments like, I don't know where y'all got this from. This ain't true. And look, again, at the end of the day, the man's not paying child support. He's not paying spousal support or alimony or what have you. And the money he gave her, she was smart. She used it to pay for her house. So just because you pay for the house, you still got maintenance. You still got, and I don't even know if that means paid off, but she said pay for the house. But she still has got to take care of the children. They still need things. She still needs things. The house still has to run. So I guess she felt like she will walk back her word. To me, it was just she was so strong year after year after year after year that she was never doing reality TV again, only for you to come back to the same show that you said was a toxic mess. And let's not forget, she wasn't necessarily saying it was toxic because of Candace. It was toxic because of the people they protected. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Let's get into it. I love y'all so much. And I hope that y'all have a really, really, really amazing time. Remember, do your skincare, drink your water, and eat some fruit, because you don't want to show up to a reunion looking like you're the grandchild of the person who graduated in your year and not the person who graduated in your year. Love you.